What is up, folks? I appreciate every single one of you. And once again, Joshua here to talk a little bit about boxing history here on a weekday, calling it boxing history every night. Of course, there wasn't an episode last night, but that was only to gear up for the episode here on this particular night. And it's one that I think people will enjoy. I think you'll be fond of the subject for tonight. And he is someone who I think will offer a little bit of insight into the middleweight division. So first and foremost, I want to thank my people from dropping in the mix here. Salute to Flag Boxing. Flag Boxing, one of those youngsters out there studying the history of boxing. Certainly, your opinion is valued here, Flag, and I appreciate you dropping in. Flag Boxing, of course, everyone. Salute to Flag Boxing. Check them out without a doubt. Again, shout out to my man Rodolfo Rivera Jr. dropping in to check us out here on this night. Of course, your opinion is appreciated as well. You are appreciated, my man Rodolfo Rivera Jr. Get to chat with him all the time, so appreciate you being here, Rodolfo. It's all good. That is pretty dope that you dropped in once again. We're keeping this thing going, baby. We're keeping it going. Get back in that call. Get back in that call, Flack. Shout out to Dan. He says, hey, mates. Dan, appreciate you, buddy. Appreciate you being here. Of course, love to talk boxing history with you, Dan, as well. Sharing a lot of great insight. Man, it surely is appreciated. Appreciate you being here without a doubt. Black Boxing says, absolutely not. That's completely ridiculous. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Salute to you. And of course, Alexander Campbell Ulster Scott. Salute to you. He says, hello there to you, Alexander. If I can call you Alex, I'll call you Alex. Just let me know. Definitely. But certainly appreciate you being here, sharing some great insight. Love having a dialogue. Of course, as I mentioned, we all have our varying opinions, and everyone deserves the right to be able to share their opinion regarding a subject, whether or not it's something you're completely in agreement with or the other way around. So I'm here to share in that love for the sport and that love for history. Beagle, appreciate you dropping in, Beagle, in and monitoring from work side. Salute to you, Beagle. Appreciate you dropping by without a doubt. In monitoring from the work side, dedication to the history right there, the interest in the history. So you are appreciated, Beagle. Always love having you in, sharing your insights, and in the comments as well. Of course, I've mentioned appreciate everyone in the comments who share their thought. We are able to share a number of different things that are tied to such. Rodolfo says, LOL, I was playing a showbiz video to piss off Flack and do that. That is funny. Mates and us. Yes, indeed, Dan. I know you're pretty fond of that Australian history there, Dan. They had a pretty deep history on the heavyweight side, but it extends beyond that. Certainly extends beyond that. Out of there. Flack 86, mates. Yes, sir. So appreciate you, Dan. Definitely look forward to this one. As mentioned, this is going to be a pretty good one, a pretty special one. Beagle says, don't got much insight, but you just need an audience. Certainly, hey, it's all good. Beagle. We're all learning and staying in the mix, certainly. Learning and staying in the mix. That's the thing about the history. You kind of just spread it, share it. We can evoke in thoughts surrounding certain subjects and make it work from there. Appreciate you, Beagle. Hey, without a doubt, appreciate you, Beagle. I can't say it enough. And I do have affection for the fact that you dropped in to sharing the love for the history here on this particular channel. Want to get that out of the way for sure. I see you, son. You're doing well. Keep it going. Indeed. Mother even dropping in the building. Nothing like it. Your mother drops in to share in on the history love as well. Appreciate you, Ma. Sending my love all the way down to that area where you're at, holding it down. So, yes, I do appreciate you being in here as well. Mother, to take part in this historic discussion because it's going to be a pretty fun one. And the subject of said video or this particular discussion is without a doubt a boxer that you will become fond of, and if you aren't familiar with him, then you're going to enjoy just learning his story and what he was able to do, what he was able to accomplish before even hitting the age of 21, which is a significant and key age. Alexander says Alex is fine, better than my mom's calling me Sasha when she was still when she was still with us. Okay, salute to your mom there, Alex as well. Appreciate you sharing such a fond memory. But Sasha, hey, I found out, and our realtor is Russian, and through such, I've tried to learn Russian at varying points, and I learned a few words that I've since forgotten, of course. But anyway, I know about Sasha being a popular name over for, I guess, Russians and maybe just the region in general. So that's pretty cool, Alexander. Hey, I don't mind Sasha. It's pretty dope. Pretty dope right there. I understand it. So, but Alex, I got you. I got you, Alex, holding it down. Appreciate you, Alex. The Boz in the building says, howdy, y'all. Howdy to your Boz. Appreciate you dropping in. Woo, diggity. Let's get it. Let's get it. The Boz, if you didn't know, the Boz and I hold it down on Sundays with Boxing Chit. That's a discussion on some of the modern stuff. We touch on the history a little bit, but mainly the modern side of things, what's going on in the world of boxing, because, we just love it. And history is being made right now. Some years down the line, we're going to be talking about this, and people are going to be talking about this. Without a doubt, Joshua's favorite catchphrase. Yeah, you're right. I have caught myself in replays seeing it. I have. That is funny stuff right there. I'm gonna try to put it under control, secure that without a doubtness that I keep throwing out there. Dan said, just rewatched the classic 9 minutes video by great 86 Maitland Wonder. Awesome video. Appreciate you, Dan. That's a video I wanted to show, actually. I'm very proud of that video. I want to show it. As a matter of fact, I think it'll be a good video for us to see. And hey, I hope you stick with me, because this is one worthy of being checked out for sure, especially if you are not familiar with Les Darcy. Even if you are, I just think it's a good one. I'm very happy about the video. I'm proud of it, how it turned out. And this was one of the first videos I started to record in my own voice. I know I was telling this to Rodolfo Flack a bit earlier. Watching 86 Live, he was in the call. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's what's up, Flack. This happened one time and on American Holiday. Yeah. Hey, it's like that sometimes. It's like that right there, Flack. I know what you're saying. Alex says, I can speak Ukrainian. It's nice for Alexander in Ukraine, too. Oh, okay, cool. Salute, Ukraine. So, Alex, you might have been on for the video on, what's his name? Oh, yeah, Kid Kaplan. Louis Kid Kaplan, Ukrainian fighter there. Pretty obscure fighter, but very, very good fighter. Certainly one of the greats, a featherweight champion. And he was from Ukraine as well. So salute for sure. Bigo, the boys are back in town. Good stuff right there, Bigo. Good stuff. Without a doubt, that is some good stuff. Appreciated everyone. Look at it. I'm saying it again. Bob, you just highlighted it for me. I can't take it away. I can't take the without a doubt away. Let's go. But so this video is gonna be on the great Maitland Wonder, Les Darcy, an Australian fighter. The Maitland Wonder. Have you heard of him? If not, he is someone you will want to know. And first and foremost, I have to shout out my guy, Brian Duncan. Brian, I know you commented earlier. I don't know if you're here watching this or you're going to watch it. But anyway, I need to get you on. Salute to Brian. He put me on game with a lot of the stuff that Les Darcy was able to accomplish in his career. Us chatting, just having conversations, chatting about boxing on Facebook, for instance. And Brian, put me on game right there. So I give a lot of credit to him just in general, his knowledge of boxing history. That's why I say, people, this is all a team effort. It's not just a single person. I'm not the holder of all information, nor is there a single person who is the holder of all information. So I appreciate the combination of being able to have these discussions with you all involved, people being able to share and leave feedback in the comments. I think that is great. And I think it all adds to the overall dynamic of just doing these lives and talking about boxing history. So that's why I say it's all appreciated without a doubt. Bosniak attack. Of course, it makes people being drugs. Hey, you guys are funny. You guys are funny there. But Les Darcy, shout out to Brian Duncan again. I'm gonna try to get him on because he has a pretty impressive book that he wrote. As a matter of fact, it wasn't too long ago, and it was in relation to a very interesting story. It's called The Ice Punch, a very interesting story that connects boxing and the Titanic. Think about that. I know the Titanic has been in news as of late for other reasons, but that being said, very interesting story, very interesting book. I have it downstairs. I'm going to bring it up here next time. I'll show you what it looks like, but I'm going to try to get Brian on to talk about it. Brian, he's pretty low key. He doesn't like to gloat or anything of that nature, but I'm going to do it for him. I'm going to do the gloating for him, but keep that in mind for sure. And with that, certainly we want to dive into Les Darcy, but hey, yes, Les Darcy vibes, but I feel like I need to show you the video yet. So stick with me since you're here now. I haven't started it like this in the previous, but I'm so proud of this video. I just have to show it. I want you all to check out this actual video for Les Darcy. It's not a long one, but it just dives into some of the things tied to his story, and I think it will actually allow for you to be able to understand his plight, understand the situation he was dealing with, and why it went down as such. So stick with me, as I mentioned, but we're going to check this out, and I appreciate you. Australia has a long history in boxing and has produced some of the greatest fighters the sport has seen, ranging from all weights. There's one name that stands above almost all. That's the Maitland Wonder, Les Darcy. To think that a fighter would leave such an impression before reaching the age of 21. This is where Darcy's story both begins and ends. Turning pro at 15 after a short stint as an amateur, Darcy had standout appeal early on. He was built differently, for lack of better terms, and looked more physically developed than his peers. The route he chose was a sweet science, riding off the wave of other greats before him. Peter Jackson, Bill Farnan, Young Griffo, and a host of other top-caliber Australian fighters. Darcy was born on October 18, 1895, in Stadbroke near Woodville, New South Wales, Australia. A young fighter rarely possesses the power to stop grown men when turning pro as a teenager, but for Darcy, this wasn't an issue at all. By the time he turned 20 years of age, Darcy had already racked up 24 stoppages in 44 contests. This was a result of his size, skill, and tenacity. Overall, Darcy's record is 46 wins, 4 losses with 29 knockouts. This transpired within a 6-year career, fighting from 1910 to 1916. His record surely would have been greater had it not been for his untimely death, which we'll touch on later. At 5'6", Darcy was a tank of a young man, stocky and solidly built. This allowed him to be able to hang tough and outpower much older men. Darcy was a boxer-puncher who could mix it up on the inside or use his skill from a distance if needed. He was also an instinctive fighter and rarely took any damage in the ring, with some sources reporting him never being hurt or knocked down during his career. Darcy took Australia by storm and started to build a name quickly, with fans realizing he was seemingly destined for greatness. Sometimes the sport chooses the fighter, and Darcy was essentially chosen. Darcy shot up the rankings, and on November 3rd, 1913, Darcy would lose a 20-round decision to Bob Whitelaw in a bid for the Australian welterweight title. It was a valiant effort for Darcy, considering he had just turned 18 6 days prior. Darcy knocked out Whitelaw in 5 rounds 3 fights later in March of 1914. Darcy also found himself in the ring with Fritz Holland in 1914, twice losing decisions in July and September. Darcy would bounce back with a signature win over Fred Dyer 3 fights later in December to close out the year. These early and tough career matchups helped to build Darcy into the fighter he would become. This all led to a January 23, 1915 Australian middleweight title match with Hall of Fame middleweight, the Bayonne Globetrotter Jeff Smith. Darcy took the lead on Smith early and looked like he was on track to hand Smith a loss. Smith fouled Darcy, though the referee did not acknowledge the infraction. This led to Darcy's cornerman approaching the apron and throwing in a towel in protest, thus resulting in a second-round disqualification loss for Darcy. Undeterred, Darcy would face Fritz Holland twice again in 1915, picking up a 20-round points victory on March 13th and forcing a retirement stoppage in the 13th round of their May 1st contest. This led to a highly anticipated May 22nd, 1915 return bout with the Bayonne Globetrotter Jeff Smith for the Australian middleweight title. A packed crowd jammed into Sydney Stadium to see their hometown fighter gain a historic win. Darcy was eager and charged up from the start, setting a furious pace as he pelted Smith with hard blows. Coincidentally, Smith was warned by the referee in the first round for landing repeated low blows. With Darcy upping the ante in the second round, Smith landed another intentional low blow that forced the referee to step in and call the fight, disqualifying Smith in the second round. Les Darcy was the new Australian middleweight champion, a title he would never lose in the ring. There are a number of claimants for the world middleweight title that Stanley Ketchel held, or at the very least had claim to, before his untimely murder in 1910. Darcy would embark on a run of Australian middleweight title defenses that made his claim as worthy as any. Darcy picked up a 15-round TKO victory over then 98-fight veteran Eddie McGordy on July 31st, 1915. The fight was billed as a world middleweight title fight. Darcy continued to fight at an expedited pace in 1915, all while suffering hand injuries. He went 20 rounds to a decision victory with Bill Murray on September 4th, followed by a 6-round stoppage victory over rival Fred Dyer on October 9th. By October 23rd, Darcy was in with another former Australian middleweight champion, the Indiana Wasp, Jimmy Clabby. Darcy took some of the hardest punches Clabby had to offer, and though he was rocked, never went down or backed up. He essentially outboxed and outpaced the game Clabby over most of the 20 rounds they fought, maintaining his title claim. Darcy would close the historic year with return bout stoppage victories over Bill Murray and Fred Dyer in November and December, respectively. Darcy didn't slow down in 1916. After racking up 8 straight victories in the first half of 1916, he would be back in the ring with Jimmy Clabby on November 9th, 1916. The bout lacked the flair and excitement of their first matchup, but Darcy comfortably won another 20-round decision. This led to his final bout on November 30th, 1916, against arguably his finest opponent, former world middleweight champion George Chip. Darcy showed his class by defeating Chip in every facet of the contest, even essentially carrying him through the latter portion of the fight en route to a 9th-round knockout victory over the former champion. Darcy's status as middleweight champion was at an all-time high, and a world middleweight title shot was seemingly the most logical and undeniable path. This, though, is where the story gets a bit complicated and outright unfortunate. Before we get to that, be sure to hit like and subscribe if you're new here, and we'll become a little more animated boxing history. Here we introduce conscription. In 1911, the Australian government introduced compulsory naval or military training for all men between the ages of 12 and 60. Men over 18 had to join the citizen military force, which also included some volunteers. Still, men could not be forced to serve overseas. During the First World War in 1914 through 1918, the Australian government attempted to introduce conscription for overseas service. 2 referendums were held in 1916 and 1917, but both times the majority of the Australians voted no. If you've been following along, 1916 is when Darcy was at his highest status in the sport, having defeated George Chip, and a world middleweight title shot was looming. This just so happened to coincide with World War I, and for fear of conscription, before he made enough money to take care of his family from a generational perspective, Darcy did not enlist in the military. His passport was denied for him to travel to the U.S. for the world middleweight title shot at some point officially. In a panic, Darcy jumped ship and fled to the United States in search of lucrative fights despite not having official documentation. Prior to this, all of Darcy's fights had taken place in Australia. Darcy left the country 4 days before the first conscription referendum. Though he was the most popular and loved fighter in Australia at the time, after his failure to enlist in the Australian military, fans quickly turned on him, designating him a coward and traitor. This weighed on Darcy, but his dreams of wealth in the sport were close in front of him. Tragically, Darcy would never have a single fight in the United States. He joined the U.S. Army shortly after arriving in an effort to ease the criticism. One day during training, Darcy collapsed and was found to be suffering from a badly infected tooth. The infection spread to his bloodstream, and he died on May 24th, 1917, at the age of 21. The view on Darcy shifted upon his body arriving in Australia and his funeral being held. A large contingent of supporters came out in droves to see the inspiring young fighter laid to rest. The Maitland Wonder is now one of the most famous and historic sports figures in the country, and his legacy has grown more significant with time, given what he was able to accomplish by the age of 21. While Darcy never won the world middleweight title, there's no question he was one of the greatest to compete at the weight, and the potential for what he could have accomplished is limitless. Are you familiar with the Boston Strong Boy? All right, folks. Appreciate you stopping by, checking that out, or staying with us. Certainly appreciate it. Wholeheartedly appreciate it, without a doubt. So Rodolfo says, "Rip Les Darcy." Indeed. Died at the age of 21, before he could really dive into his true prime, before he could really dive into the best of the best during his era. And he did fight some of the best even before reaching that age, as you could see, with wins over the likes of the Bayonne Globetrotter, Jeff Smith, George Chip. I mean, this was a big-time fighter. I think I didn't mention him in the video, but I believe he had some contests also with Eddie McGordy. I believe his name is Eddie McGordy, who was another top-level fighter from that period, middleweight or in and around that range. So I wanted to show that video just to give some insight. It was only like 8 minutes or whatever, but kind of just dove into some of the things surrounding Les Darcy and who he was as a fighter, and then the history that ultimately led to him not being able to live through that true bulk of his career that pretty much lied ahead. And it's an unfortunate situation in terms of how it went down. There was a misconception, or at least in the early portion of Darcy leaving and heading to the United States, it was thought that he was trying to simply duck the military conscription referendum and having to serve, but he was really looking at seizing on the opportunity to fight for the world title to allow for him to generate enough funding to be able to spread that and share that amongst his family and compatriots back in Australia. So that's one of the reasons he jumped ship, and he thought that this would have actually interfered in such, which to a certain degree it would have, had he had to serve in the capacity in which he did. But, with time, as they say, time heals all wounds. So he is rightfully recognized these days in Australia, certainly as one of the great fighters that the sport has seen, but truly one of those just remarkable stories overall that as it relates to sports and to a certain degree, military in Australia. So big time stuff, without a doubt. Some of the comments, Bob says, guess who he fought last? Gus Lesnovich. Cool. We'll have to check out Palmer there, Boz. Good stuff sharing information on him. Palmer, so that is, what's his name? Aussie light heavyweight by the name of Ambrose Palmer. Definitely will be checking him out, buddy. But that is not too bad right there. Not too bad. Biggle says, great video. Deepfakes are cool. Really brings fighters to life. Salute. Appreciate you, Biggle. Yes, indeed. Some find it creepy, and I can see a little bit of creepiness or just cringiness in it at some points or whatever, especially those ones I've done of the AI generated paintings. It is pretty interesting, I will say, but certainly I think it does add life to these fighters, many of whom don't have any actual video that is out there. Fortunately for us, we have some video of Les Darcy. You can just see him in there applying his trade. You can see he was a well-built, stocky young man. So he had the body for middleweight, and I think that he would have troubled pretty much any middleweight he took on. You could see what he was able to accomplish just before getting to the age of 21. So just think about as he continued to mature, and likely he would have certainly gone north in weight and probably ended up at light heavyweight. Wouldn't be surprised if he even tried his own hand at heavyweight if that opportunity came about. But certainly I think he would have ultimately ended up at light heavyweight and could have made a name for himself in that division as well. So I think that is one of the key pieces as well, just thinking about his career overall. Dan says, over 100 years later, here we are honoring Les. Without a doubt, honoring the man, Les Darcy. Again, shout out to my man, Brian Duncan, who really put me on game on Les Darcy, and just hearing his story. Man, it's just an amazing story, just in general. You know, a movie, it could be a movie, essentially. You have the drama, you have the action, just a mixture of all of that I think could all play out. Appreciate you, Dan, without a doubt. Les Darcy, Australian middleweight champion. And I'm going to say would be, because I feel he would have been world middleweight champion had that opportunity come about. Went 12 with Gus Lustovich, top-notch light heavyweight right there, light heavyweight champion. That is pretty dope right there, the boss. So, yeah, we're going to have to check them out. Australia has produced some pretty solid fighters overall. Johnny Famchon, that's who Palmer trained. Okay. Yeah, I know of him. Who do I know? There's some video out there of him in the ring with another top-level fighter. I can't think of who it is. I know there might be more than one of them, but I know I've seen one with him in there with someone top level. I can't think of who it is at the moment, though. Rodolfo Rivera Jr. says, what was the Titanic reference, 86? I didn't catch it. If you've been in here before, then you know that I've done that often, throwing myself out of the video once again. But I'm back quick, record time this time. But Rodolfo said, "What was the Titanic reference? 86? I didn't catch it." Oh yeah, my buddy Brian Duncan. He wrote a book called Ice Punch, The Ice Punch, as a matter of fact. And this is the story of these boxers who were on the Titanic. I'm gonna try to get him on, and we can have a discussion on the book in itself. I did a review some years back when I had the 86 Boxing website where I was writing articles. I don't have that up at the moment. I'm going to bounce back with one in some capacity. But that being said, it's called The Ice Punch. Dow Hawkins is one of the Dia Hawkins is something like that. And I can't think of the other guy right now, but it's a very interesting story. But these are two fighters who were on the Titanic. They were headed to the U.S. for more lucrative opportunities in the boxing ring. And unfortunately, I'm sure we all know what happened with the Titanic. So that's going to be an interesting story. One we have to check out. One worthy of the book, too, or a movie as well. I would say so, at least. Rodolfo was very interested in the Titanic part. Oh, yeah. Rodolfo, fan of the Titanic. Yeah. Very interesting thing. You know, I've seen several things surrounding the Titanic, but being able to connect it with boxing history, that's pretty cool as well. Pretty cool. Alexander says he was more than a punch at the time fighter. You can see in footage great combinations, without a doubt, great combinations. And he knew how to get rough and rugged in there. So this young man, he didn't back down. So you saw that. You don't get wins over the likes of Jeff Smith, George Chitt, Clabby either without being a fighter who could bring it in all capacities of the game. So he was very much adept offensively, and he just had a high IQ in the ring as well. So he knew what worked for him. And a lot of that a lot of that is attributed to him fighting at a higher level at a younger age. So you can see how that can be of benefit to someone as they continue on in the sport. So it's pretty remarkable. The Boz hadn't seen the whole Titanic. It's a long movie, but certainly worthy of such. But there are a lot of different things out there, Boz. I'm sure you've gotten the story in more than one way for sure. Fampion and Pep, maybe. Yes, I think that's who it is right there. Flat box. Look at flat boxing on there. I would send you I give you a bell or something if I had some sound effects, which I will have at some point. But salute to your flat boxing, putting that in the mix right there. The great Willie Pep. Yes, I did press the wrong button there, Boz. You know how easy it is to leave the studio. And I think one of the things is it's also if I use because I use a trackpad as opposed to a mouse, And if you use a certain amount of fingers, 3 fingers, you can slide yourself over, or pretty much push you back. Or 2 fingers will do it too, I believe, as well. Yeah, 2 fingers would send you back as well. I think 3 fingers changes the window, and I have a knack for doing that. But I have hit the button as well, which says leave studio. Why would I want to do that? Why? But it's all good. Dan says all the greatest fighters in history, the golden era, and only one American fought on the front lines, Michael Dowd. Yes, indeed. Les ain't no draft dodger, just smart. The British set up the Australians for death. Hey, yeah, crazy stuff right there. Crazy stuff. I know we have some busts of the history, or at least military war history as well. So that sheds some lights on varying things. Certainly shed some light, without a doubt. Rodolfo says, wow, I want to hear that. The Titanic is one of my favorite things to learn about. Please get him on. Without a doubt. I'm going to work on it. I'm going to get my man Brian on here. I'm not taking no for an answer. I think I did get some words from him in an interview that I did have back on the 86 Boxing channel, but I'm going to try to get him on to talk about it firsthand. We need that shine, and we need this book. Everyone needs to check out this book. Go cop this book, because it'll be a good little treat. Great read, and certainly worthwhile. And then you're helping out a fellow boxer or a fellow boxing history fan who took the time to go through the process of researching and putting together a great story that dives into the careers of it's 2 fighters. I can't think of the second one right now, but certainly worthwhile. And we all know how the Titanic is a fairly tragic story for sure. Famchion versus someone I seen that fight as well. I thought Famchion had super really long arms, but it was actually his shoulder width that was unusual. Okay, unusual shoulder width. Yeah, I don't know a ton about him, but that's interesting right there, flat boxing. Yeah, there are some guys who have pretty broad shoulders. They're blessed with some awkwardly long body parts and things of that nature. Sam Lankford, for his height ratio, height to weight ratio and all that stuff, yeah, he was a stocky, solidly built boxer, and he had a longer reach than many around his size. He was in the 70s, if I'm not mistaken, and that's at like 5'7". I've seen some say 5'6", but my man Random McCusick Thought says 5'7". I take his word and tracking on it a bit greater as well. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting. But, yeah, broad shoulders. Maybe Jose Legra, flat boxing, or Fighting Harada, Japanese fighter right there. Another great fighter for sure. Okay, I'm thinking of Ray Famchion and not Johnny. Oh, Ray fought Willie Pep. Okay, that's what I'm thinking about right there. So there's a different one. Okay, yeah, you're putting us on game. I think that was his uncle. Interesting. Hold up, we're gonna have to dig into that at some point, without a doubt. We'll have to dig into that. The French boxer Ray Famchion, or Famchion, I guess, but I'm gonna say Famchion since there's a fame in there. But interesting, didn't know that. Like I said the other day, Gallipoli is the worst tragic blunder in history. British just kept forcing the Australians into machine gun fire while British sip tea. Yeah, that's messed up. Yeah, that is pretty messed up right there, without a doubt. War, serious business. Lives are lost. It's tragic for sure. I've had to, I guess you can say, go to war myself in Iraq back in 2006. So certainly no fun in games. Salute to all the military veterans out there, all of the others, civilian side, all of those sectors who support in whatever capacity the whole process of just everything that goes into getting our troops, fighters, Marines, etc., to the place that they need to be. So salute to all. Shout out to all my fellow veterans out there. Semper Fi to all my fellow Marines out there, without a doubt. The boss said, yeah, Johnny was also French-born. Awesome. That is good stuff. I didn't know there were more than one, but I am thinking of the Willie Pep, the fighter that took on Willie Pep as I know Flack was mentioning. He had two uncles that were boxing. Maybe his father too was. Oh, that's a boxing family right there. Boxing freaking family. Hey, you never know. You never know. Les lost his best friend in the tragic battle. Yeah, that certainly sucks right there. Dan, how do we get to that? I see. It was a great blunder indeed. Oh yeah, without a doubt. Looked like Puppy Les, always his nice smile, but a killer of a fighter and a great wrestling boxer too. Was important then, as your video shows. Oh yes, without a doubt. Yeah, I think there were some comments because I did a short video, but certainly some comments from earlier today on some video. But yeah, we're talking about that connection between boxing and wrestling that has been there for a long period of time, especially dating back to the actual bare knuckle days of fighting. There is a connection between wrestling and boxing. Of course, one famously we know of, William Muldoon, who was a Greco-Roman wrestler, trained John L. Sullivan amongst others, and he went on to be the head of the Madison Square Garden. So he played in part, or had a responsibility in part, for a number of the great fights that took place during at the Madison Square Garden at the turn of the century, or at least a little further in, but pretty much at the turn of the century, etc. And he was a wrestler. You think about Frank Gotch. That's another one who was instrumental, another top-level wrestler. And they had what they called, I believe, catch wrestling at that particular time. So a lot of those things translated over to fighting in general. So you had a deep connection between boxing and wrestling that goes way back. And we even had some boxers who, after they finished their boxing career, or at least were at the back end, they would turn over or transfer to wrestling, professional wrestling, that is. That was the case with the Leaferville Shadow, George Godfrey, Tiny Roebuck. That's another one I know of. Also, the wrestler Classy Freddie Blassie actually fought Tony Galento in a contest at some point, which is pretty crazy thinking about it, right? Dan says, I really think Les had the goods to beat Greb, both primes, without a doubt. Without a doubt there, Dan. Hey, I think he was very much capable, especially, he knew how to rough up on the inside. So Greb would be able to do his work without a doubt, but he would certainly have to look for and stay attuned to Darcy on the inside, where he was pretty strong and solid. You can see even at that age, he was able to muscle around some of these more mature, older men. And, he was a youngster, probably not fully developed, but he was already strong, solid. He just had natural strength. He was an athletic guy. So I think he would have given Harry Greb a run for his money without a doubt. Not a guaranteed victory, but certainly capable. Just as it was capable for Harry Greb to defeat him. And you can conceive varying ways with the output and everything. But that being said, Darcy, he seemed to have the goods, just thinking about it. And he was just coming into his own at that particular time. And I think that intention, when he actually went over to the United States, where he ultimately did not have a single fight, but the intention was to fight Harry Greb. So we would have likely gotten that contest, would have likely been filmed. But as we know, hard to find any films of Harry Greb outside of training. Rodolfo says, I'm by that Ice Punch book 86. Salute to you, Rodolfo, for sure. Got to get Brian on. We got to talk about that without a doubt, because it is a worthy buy. It's not too long either. Some can be thick, deep, and long, but this one is just, everything about it is pretty good. Just pretty solid overall. Just the thought process behind it and how you went about it and everything. And it's a worthy read. Very interesting story. As we always say, boxing has a long history. It has a long history of stories for interesting characters, interesting individuals, etc. So certainly it's worthy of checking out, without a doubt. So appreciate you there, Rodolfo Rivera Jr. I'm sure Brian would certainly love such. Be a good thing, without a doubt. Dan, Les was heavyweight champion of Australia. Les could have moved up to heavyweight in his teens. Look at those strong legs, lad. Yep. He was a solidly built guy for sure. So, so he won the Australian heavyweight championship. I need to look back on that myself. But that's pretty dope if he did. I couldn't recall such just here off top for sure. But I mentioned he just had the build to be able to work with it all. Let me see. Oh yeah, he did win the Australian heavyweight championship. Just think about that. Middleweight. This is 1916. 1916 was his best year, and of course his final year. Just think about how good he was, just to be able to do what he did, going through that process. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah, he was he had fought for the Australian welterweight championship as well against Bob Whitelaw. But yeah, dang, yeah, you're right. He did win the Australian heavyweight championship. So just think about that, folks. That adds even more mystique to the man. That adds even more fervor to what could have been, as far as the great Les Darcy, who they call the Maitland Wonder, from Maitland, Australia. And hell of a fighter, as we said. Seeing that video kind of highlights some of it. Doesn't tell the full story, but certainly got Hackensmith were the real deal. No sports entertainment in those days, without a doubt. Alexander, without a doubt, yeah, wrestling. Hey, it was on point for sure. This is on point for sure. That's without a doubt there. Alexander or Alex for sure. Just think about that. Yeah, if you look into that history of wrestling, especially dating back in those days, and I don't know everything about it, a ton of it. I've looked into some of those wrestlers who were pioneers for the sports, and they were pioneers for professional wrestling, but they learned their trades in the real competition, even though professional wrestling is real in the physicality of it. But the unscripted, wrestling tournaments, events, and competitions. There were even boxers that participated in some of those at times. Some of the MMA style rules type of fighting, I guess you can say, and even grappling. We know that some of those date way back, like Sambo, things of that nature, date back. But hey, that stuff was pretty much, or those guys were pretty much heavily involved in the sport and just training and to get a fighter whipped in shape and being able to handle what was going down in a boxing contest during those days. So was Ambrose Palmer, Australian heavy champion, despite not being a real heavy. Okay, cool. Pretty awesome right there. Pretty awesome. Ambrose Palmer. So, yeah, he's someone I'll definitely have to look up. Don't know a ton about him. Well, I don't know anything about him except for what we're talking right now, but that is good to know. Pause there, says Flat Boxing. I hear you. You guys are funny. Then his father was a drunkard and as a young lad had to work full time as a blacksmith to feed the family. He even had to milk cows before work. Okay, good stuff. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I do recall him sort of being on the job there early on, and that kind of helped him as far as developing some of that strength and that physical body and just being able and capable of dealing with guys who were bigger and of course more mature. And we saw a similar thing with Bob Fitzsimmons and how it did wonders for him as far as his upper body and it's just natural strength for him working as a blacksmith, working with his dad as they had some type of business that was in that particular trade. And it helped him develop a knockout punch unseen by many in the history of the sport. And similar thing with Les Darcy. I think that helped him as far as being in there with those guys who are, and some of these were on the elite level as far as it relates to boxing history. And a younger Darcy was able to handle them. So, yeah, someone I had mentioned, Eddie McGordy. Yeah, he fought and beat Eddie McGordy. If you don't know Eddie McGordy, look him up. He is top flight boxer. He's from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Oh, that's where he resided, but Eureka, Wisconsin. But Oshkosh, I know of Oshkosh being tied to some military trucks and all of that stuff. So McGordy fought him for the world middleweight title on more than one occasion. That being said, he couldn't get over the hump of beating Les Darcy. Now, McGordy won Australian version against a different fighter. They fought a couple of different guys and won, but Les Darcy was someone he just couldn't get over the hump with. But McGordy, he was in with some pretty top flight guys, to include the likes of George Chip, who he drew with. He lost to Mike Gibbons. Remember Mike Gibbons, who we generally talk about, Tommy Gibbons' brother, who was a very, very good boxer who goes a bit underrated himself. So that just gives you an understanding. P.O. Matthew Curran, who was in with a lot of top level competition as well, British fighter. McGordy was in with Harry Greb, losing to Harry Greb. Just think about Harry Greb was in with some of everyone. Just think about that. That's pretty crazy. But that just gives you an example. He's certainly one of the top boxers in that middleweight division in those ranks of all time. He was in there with Jeff Smith. I'm looking at his resume. Dave Smith, who was a fighter I've seen pop up a number of times on several resumes. Don't really know about him. Frank Kloss, another top flight middleweight right there. Frank Kloss. If you don't know now, you know, former world middleweight champion. So these are the guys McGordy was in, and he was in with Leo Florian Hook, another one, battling Levitsky, etc., etc. I could go on forever, but that gives you an idea. This dude was the real deal. He doesn't get mentioned as much, but certainly someone worth mentioning right there. And Les Darcy was able to handle him. That just shows you Les Darcy was worth the price of admission, and he helped to continue to keep boxing at a popular stage, a popular level, big time boxing in Australia by virtue of the guys who were willing to travel there and face him. So the Australian middleweight title had merit. It certainly had merit. The boss says Dan really knows his history. Indeed, he does. Indeed, he does. Appreciate you, Dan, without a doubt. I got most of this information from comments on the 86 video. Awesome, Dan. Yeah, hey, it's all good. I get it. I get that as well, because we all share in on the comments, and it helps to continue to push the history forward when we discuss some of those things that go on. Or some of those extra pieces, extra nuggets or gems that are left in the comments from people all around who love to speak on the history, or at least are fans of the history and are willing to share that information. There's no reason in keeping it tight knit. We're all here to share this. We all embark on this. I'm just speaking on it by virtue of this podcast, YouTube video. But that being said, I am not the beholder of all information. I love when we get to have dialogue and others chiming in. I think that helps to push the histories further. It helps to push the sport in itself further, and it gets more individuals, even the younger individuals, such as the likes of Flack, Rodolfo, etc., gets them even more involved in the sport to help continue to carry that history forward, because it's very intriguing, especially if you're just a fan of history in general. I was always a fan of history in school, so it kind of goes hand in hand, I guess you could say. You guys are going to have to excuse my spelling. I've been knocked on my fourth for the content. Hey, it's all good, Alex. All good. Hey, you can really mix some things up without a doubt. Hey, you're not the only one. Trust me, buddy. You're not the only one. You do know your stuff too, Boz. Boz, yes, yeah, indeed he does. Indeed, Boz, yeah. Hey, it's so cool because Boz gets enlightened me on so many different boxers in history. Al Hostak being one of them, former world middleweight champion, who I didn't know of several months ago, and now I do. Al Hostak. Salute to you, Boz, sharing that info. Just not an expert on so many boxers born before this century. Yeah. I'm usually diving into the history of those guys, so it helps in that sense. But certainly some of the guys of the 60s, even the 50s, I don't know as much about them outside of some of the bigger names, of course, which tend to get passed down and mentioned over that time. I had to look up Utrecht. Okay. 20th century. Yes, sir. We got you. Artane or Euskadun. Oh yeah, Euskadun was certainly the Basque fighter, the Basque woodchopper, Paulino Euskadun. But there was another 28 KOs in a row. Oh, that's pretty dope. Yeah, I don't think I know him. Artane. Okay. Strong man. Okay. Good stuff. Dan knew Euskadun. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know the other guy either. Jose Manuel Urtain. He was a shepherd who could lift a 200-pound rock with one arm. Imagine that. That is pretty big time. That is a strong fella right there. Strong fella. McGurdy was awesome. Indeed, Dan. So yeah, I was just highlighting him because he's someone who you don't get here mentioned often, but as you can see, when I was just rattling off some of those names, he was in with some of the best fighters in history, some of the best middleweights for sure who have ever laced up a pair of gloves in the sport of boxing. Hey, it's not me making it up. They just he was just in with them. Oh no, Artane died from falling off a window from a great height. Hopefully there was no funny business involved there, boys. That's crazy. Frank Claus was awesome too. Yes, Frank Claus. He's someone who had a smaller career as far as number of fights by comparison to some that we associate with these periods, these eras. But certainly he made up for it by fighting some of the absolute best, and he became world champion in the midst of such. So you got to give him props for that for sure. I heard of Claus. I think you probably heard of him. The Boz he was in with some top level middleweights for sure. Oh, he jumped out then. Oh my goodness. Oh, alcoholism. Oh no. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's not good. 92. Jesus. Sombering stories here. Hey, we got to talk about them. Sombering stories. So he tried to get back in the boxing. They wouldn't let him. To think that some of the stuff they allow in the sport as well. Oh, he was 49. Okay, crazy. He once lifted Muhammad Ali above his head. Wow, that's big time. See, look at that history being passed on right here. Stuff I didn't know about. So that's awesome right there. Thanks for sharing, guys. Thanks for sharing that information. Rodolfo Rivera Jr. just says, I remember hearing Wilt Chamberlain could lift Arnold Schwarzenegger with one arm or something like that. Yeah, it was super tall and strong. They worked on some movie or show, but I think it was a movie together. And just think about Wilt Armstrong dwarfing the likes of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Huge man right there. Huge man. Super athletic, too. Alex says, Zell and Hostak had some great battles. Indeed. Salute to Boz putting us on game. Putting us on game there, Boz. But, of course, you all knew it was an introduction to me as far as when Boz was mentioning Al Hostak. And yes, indeed, the great Tony Zell. We know him from that rivalry with Rocky Graziano as well. The boss says, LOL, McGordy actually lived in Oshkosh. I remember when in The Sopranos, Uncle Junior replies to someone asking him if you've heard of something. Of course, I don't live in Oshkosh. Okay, that's pretty dope. I remember Oshkosh, they made the trucks that I had driven in the military. Oshkosh. I don't know if it's the same place, but it seems like there's only one Oshkosh, but I could be wrong. Frank Claus got knocked out twice by George Chipp. George Chipp, another big-time middleweight right there with a tough resume, top-level resume. He, too, did not have a ton of fights, but much like Claus, in the fights that he did have, he made up for it by fighting top-level competition. And to think that both of these guys were in the mix there, that's big time. And you know of Les Darcy. I mean, just think about the guys that he was running up against. So this is all at a very young age, as we say. So it's not unforeseen. It's not out of the ordinary. Usually these days, we don't think about guys of that younger age, someone being 19, 20, having already won or at least face some of the best boxers of their era. It happens, but we don't think about it as much. But you can see it was nothing back then. It was a way of life. You just had to do it how you had to do it. You had to fight those who were willing to get in there and exchange. And these guys are willing to exchange with the best. So seeing the best fighting the best, even at a younger age, is not something unforeseen in the sport. So I think we should certainly continue to shed light on such because it makes things worthwhile, without a doubt. The boss says, I thought at first it was just an expression, but there actually is a town called Oshkosh. Oh, yes, there actually is a town, Oshkosh, Wisconsin, folks. If you don't know, now you know. Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Flatbox said Frank Claus was a Hall of Fame, mentions on Leo Hook's resume. resume. Oh yeah, certainly there, Flack. Yeah, Leo Florian Hook. Yeah, he was in with some top level fighters. Had a very tough resume, a ton of fights too, as we all know. And Frank Claus being one of those guys, got to give it to him. I was mentioning Frank Claus in another video. I'm trying to think because one of the more recent ones, it might have been. I don't know if it was Harry. Was it Harry Lewis? Or maybe not Harry. It was someone. I can't think of who it is. But one of my more recent videos, he was a name that kept coming up as well. Frank Claus was in with a lot of top level guys. So that's that shows you that those guys, hey, they didn't care who they had to mix it up with back then. It was all about getting in that work. That's how they had to feed their family. And no one was going to stand in the way, even if you were regarded as the best in your division, etc. Dan says Zell was Polish, Hostak, the Savage Slav. Zell knocked him out. Zell was awesome. Yes, indeed. It's the Savage Slav. Yes, sir. That's pretty dope right there. Yeah, Poland has produced some pretty top level boxers, top notch boxers as well. We all know that, even here to this day. Ambrose Palmer beat Dave Shade, then lost by DQ in a rematch. Dave Shade, a man with a lot of competition under his belt as well, former champion, or was he? I think he won it. Didn't he win the championship? World champion. I know of him. I know of his mention. He's been often mentioned by the boxing librarian, and I'm sure Scrapbook Boxing as well. Dave Shade. That's how I became familiar with the name. Of course, someone worth diving into from a history and career standpoint. I don't know a ton about him outside of, I know he had a pretty excellent resume against a lot of guys, a lot of top level guys as well. So Dave Shade, yeah, certainly someone worth checking out. Hey, you want to get more information? Check out the Boxing Librarian's channel. He's done a lot of things on them. It's all good. So the boss says Hostak was check. Interesting. Okay. There's your precious Dave Shade, LL Kidding. I know someone here was raving about him. Oh, yes, certainly. Dave Shade. Dave freaking Shade. Yep. A lot of great Slavic fighters. Indeed. Especially now, there is certainly Ketchel and Papke, both Polish. Oh, okay. Both Polish. You know what? Stanislav Ketchel, or I knew his first name was Stanislav, but I don't think I recall Papke being that, but that's pretty dope knowing that though. Papke, you know, I have Papke on a list to do a video of him. Of course, he's mentioned in the Stanley Ketchel video we have on the channel, but I know of Billy Papke, their rivalry, of course. He beat Stanley Ketchel and picked up the world middleweight title. Stanley Ketchel was able to get him back. We have at least, I don't know if it's all of the fights on video, but I know at least one for sure is on video. Maybe more than one, but I know for sure one is on video. So they're definitely worth checking out. We have video of Papke and Ketchel getting at it. Rough and tumble, too. Rough and tumble fights right there. Papke was an aggressive fighter. He didn't mind roughing you up. And we know Stanley Ketchel, he would come back swinging and throwing bombs, even if they took him to the ground himself. Fritzy Zivic and George Chuvalo, Croats. All right, shout out to Croatia. I wanted to visit there once when I was in Kosovo. I tried to go to Croatia as well, but we weren't going to have enough time because we had already started the trip. Ended up in Montenegro. We went to Albania and Montenegro. In Croatia, you needed some kind of pass that it took like 24 hours or more to get approval for it, but didn't get to make that trip, but certainly would have been cool. Fished in Oshkosh. Okay, Alex. Hey, Alex gets around, baby. Gets around. Fished in Oshkosh. Cool. Wisconsin. Give Wisconsin some love, folks. That's pretty dope right there. I know that I believe it was, when Minnesota was banned, boxing was banned in Minnesota, a lot of the fighters, they went across the border and fought in Wisconsin. I get into that a bit on the Fred Fulton video that is on the channel. The Rochester plaster of Fred Fulton. So he used to travel across the border along with many of the Minnesotan fighters, Billy Misk, etc., to fight in Wisconsin where boxing was legal. And that was instrumental in boxing becoming legal there. So is Papke too? I think he was German. Balkans. Okay, cool. Yay. Yay. Balkans. Hey, Baltic fighters. Hey, that's pretty dope. That is pretty dope. That is where you hail from there, the boss. Salute. Holding it down. I've been to Finland. Shout out to my man Tommy Silvanonen. Tommy Silvanonen. If you don't know him, check him out. He has some videos out there on YouTube. And I have a video on this channel as well. Finnish fighter, that falls in line with the Baltic, or that's more Nordic, I guess you can say. More Nordic, not necessarily Balkans, but you get the picture. You get the picture. Alex, I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and Zale grew up in Gary. He worked in the steel mills. Okay, that's pretty dope right there. Gary, Indiana, I take it? Gary, Indiana. Yeah, I knew someone. Shout out to my man. Damn it, what's his name? Marine Corps buddy. I feel bad. I know his name. I can't think of it at the moment. But shout out to him from Gary Dang, Indiana. Freaking this is so annoying. But salute. Damn it. My buddy from the Marine Corps. You know how, hey, old age, your mind starts to go away. Dave Shade, awesome, without a doubt. What happened? I got cut off. Hey, it's not me. It's not Vita Bonds. Hold on now. It said weird. It said error weird. Interesting. I'm not sure there, buddy. Dan says Papke was brutal. Catcher perhaps toughest fighter of all time. Oh yeah. Two tough guys right there. Tough without a doubt. Yeah, those guys, man, they could bang it out for sure. And they would throw slugs in there. Yeah, Papke, tough fighter. Didn't have a huge career either, but tough fights in the career that he did have. Now it's bigger than some of the smaller stuff, but not in comparison to those who fought over 100 fights and 200 fights, etc. Those guys, that's one of a kind almost. One of the hardest hitters, Ketchel, without a doubt. You think about those lists of the biggest punchers in boxing history, you're gonna find Ketchel on it without a doubt. You will. Ketchel's name was Keitsal. I'm not sure if I spelled it right. Okay, Keitsal. Okay. Yes, Stanislav Kisal. I think I'm saying that right. Kisal, am I? Who knows? But yeah. I remember that Stanislav for sure. I do remember that, aka Stan Lee. Zell, the man of steel, because from Gary. So I'm thinking that's Gary, Indiana, right? Thank you, John. Oh, thank you. I try to do what I do. Bosnia, salute. Bosnia. I want to visit Bosnia. Small country. Man, I know the food is going to be awesome. I got a small taste in Kosovo and then Montenegro. So I know it's going to be awesome. I need more of that. Got to take a trip over there. Let me know if we can make it happen, Bos. Let me know. Maybe you can show me around Bosnia. Alexander, my mom was Doroshenko. You can get more East Slavic than that. Okay, good. Doroshenko. Okay, cool. Hey, I'm getting better at pronouncing the names, of course, because boxing, you get people from all walks of life, and it helps certainly become more familiarized with some of the names, of course, because you have to say them to mention these boxers, of course. Derevyanchenko, Gvozdyk, Beterbiev, things of that nature. It's cool just saying some of the names that force you to really spell out those syllables. Bosnia. This Doroshenko, a famous name. There was a hetman, a Cossack leader named Petro Doroshenko, 17th century. Interesting. I think we get more than just boxing history on here. We get history in general. That's pretty dope. My mom's maiden name. Her mother was a boycott. Boyko. Okay, cool there, Alex. What kind of last name? Yeah, Boyko. I think. Yeah. Let me see. I think Kesel pronounced Kishal. Okay, Kisha, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, Stanislav Kishal. Either Kishal. Yeah, it could have been that one as well. We love going through these. pronunciation. I'm on an iPad. The spelling takes on a live. Yes, indeed it does. I know about that. That freaking auto spell there, Alex. It will have you saying all types of stuff. Uh, that is pretty crazy. Yuri Boyka. Boyka. Papke was Polish though. He's in the Polish Hall of Fame. Okay, cool. Stanley Papke, or not Stanley, but Billy Papke. He was in the Polish Hall of Fame. I actually knew a guy with the last name Boycott. Yeah, I haven't known a guy with the last name or anyone with the last name Boycott. Very interesting one right there. Certainly would ring bells. Salute to you, Dan, dropping that knowledge. He might have been half Polish, half German. Oh, yeah, potentially. We all have a mixture of a little something in us. I've done ancestry, and yeah, it's all over the place at times. All over this place. And as the samples grow larger, the changes come about. I've done ancestry and 23andMe. Mostly African, but I've had a mixture of other countries in there as well. A little native. You know what I want to do is do a show or episode in some capacity. No, more so a show or series where we dive into some of the individuals or maybe family members who are connected with some of these boxers, just to see where that connection lies or what it dates back to, how that lineage came about. Because I often get many people on the channel who say that they're the relative of such and such, and it's pretty awesome, just thinking about it, that connection. Bobby Sees is also a Polish Hall of Famer, and his father's half Polish. Did I say that right? Sizzy? How do you say that, Boz? Rodolfo, is there a Mexican Boxing Hall of Fame? Interesting question there. There's certainly those that you would probably think and know that would be in there. One of them, Baby Arizmendi, should be in there. Great Mexican fighter who doesn't get mentioned as much as he should. Former featherweight champion of the world. Very good fighter. Tough resume as well. But yeah, let us know there, Rodolfo, if there's a Mexican Boxing Hall of Fame. I would be surprised if there's not. And as Boz said, if it isn't Rodolfo, that's all you right there. That is all you. If you need my help, let me know. You got a little Latino blood in you, 86? I don't think that popped up. I had a little native, which I guess in theory could tie back to Latino in some sense. I did have a little bit of native blood, Native American blood in me. So pretty interesting, right? So hey, I'm an honorary Latino. I've been to Mexico a few times and enjoyed it, and I love it. And of course, if you love boxing, then you're gonna run across some Mexican fighters who bring the noise, baby. I have a video on the channel. He wasn't born in Mexico, but he went by the name of Mexican Pete Everett. Another fighter from back in that time. He was Mexican American from Colorado. Mexican Pete Everett, worth checking out. You look at his resume and you think like, nothing to write home about, but certainly he had a big time punch. The majority of his wins, all but I say one, maybe two, were by knockout. Mexican Pete Everett. We don't know him. Check him out, folks. He was in with some of the best, without a doubt. Aziz is 3/4 Italian. Interesting. No, it's cheese. Oh, wow. How am I supposed to know that with those Z's thrown in the mix? That's supposed to be cheese? That's funny. But they call him Ches in the U.S. Okay. I would have never thought. So cheese. Ches. That's right, Dan. See, Dan knows. Interesting. Hey, we get a lesson on here, people. We get a lesson beyond just the general stuff. Rodolfo says, I need to do a 23andMe 86. I wouldn't be surprised if I was a quarter European or something. Hey, you will not be surprised. Not be surprised. I know my partner, she has some Irish in her. Like Irish. So it dates back. It was awesome. A lot of intermingling and all of that stuff. Dating back, you know what I'm saying? Dating back. Pretty great fighter, Bobby Cheese. Bobby Cheese. I got it now. He's like the guy Al Pacino played in Dog Day Afternoon, John Botovich. His father was Polish, mother Italian. Interesting. I don't think I've seen that movie. Should I have seen it? Let me know. Yeah, Bobby was fast, hit hard, explosive fighter. Okay, dope stuff. CZ is CH in Polish. Okay, yeah. Still getting those things kind of down pat. Trying to get those down pat. Mexican Boxing Hall of Fame doesn't exist. Wow, Rodolfo. Interesting indeed, as you mentioned there. Interesting indeed. That seems like something you could pursue, embark on there, Rodolfo. A Mexican Boxing Hall of Fame. As mentioned, hey, I'll support you in whatever capacity you need. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen, Rodolfo. You are the man to take charge. Headquarters can be Jalisco or Jalisco. Isn't that crazy? Right. Yes, that is pretty crazy there, boss. Not a Mexican Boxing Hall of Fame, given the rich tradition of boxing in Mexico. It's needed. Yes, Dan, kind of weird, isn't it? Certainly. You said, Josh, it's a good movie. Okay, I'm going to try and check that out. I'm going to try and check that out sometime. Dog Day Afternoon. Good stuff. Dog Day Afternoon. Yeah, that's a crime, boss. Indeed it is. I'm going to have to make 186. Let's go. You can do it. Hey, it could even be an online version. It doesn't have to be a physical location. At least it can start out as an online version and get people to sort of buy in and join in on the effort. And hey, it could be a major thing. It's certainly needed. You have so many historic Mexican fighters that why wouldn't you have one? Why wouldn't you? Sure is. Go for it, Rowdy Rodolfo. Rowdy Rodolfo. Rowdy Rivera. Yeah. Mexican fighters are great. Certainly crazy. It's not one. Yeah, how would boxing look today without Mexicans? Probably not as exciting for sure. Probably not as exciting. And some of these wars of the past, it was certainly, we would have missed out on a number of great fighters participating and being able to apply their trade, adding to the overall history. Not as exciting for sure. Doug says, yes, see, Doug, Dog Day Afternoon. Was there ever a doubt? Yeah. Good stuff, Beagle. Got to check it out. I know Flack is half Mexican, half Polish. All right, old Flack holding it down. Zarate, Bobby Chacon, Bazooka Limon. Awesome, Dan. Putting us on game right there. Speaking of such, I got to get Skywalker Boxing on here. I'm going to do a video in collaboration with Skywalker Boxing. Luke Skywalker Boxing. For all I know, he might be live right now. But Bobby Chacon was his uncle. Great fighter, of course. World champion. And yeah, we're going to collaborate in some capacity on one of the videos to dive into his career. I thought it would be a pretty cool thing. He's down for it as well. So that's pretty dope right there, Dan. I know you know the guys out there lacing them up. You know your history. Even Duran is half Mexican. Awesome there, boss. Manos de Piedra, baby. Without a doubt. You know, I've said before that I think the Hands of Stone movie was a very good movie. I just like the way it was put together. Did a good job casting, etc. So I was a big fan of it. My favorite Mexican fighters. Okay, that's what's up. Dan dropping that knowledge right there. Plus the great trios, Morales, Barrera, Marquez. Without a doubt, there would be no Manny Pacquiao without those three. That trilogy and him competing with those guys. Could you imagine him not fighting any of them? Just the Manny Pacquiao story would not be the same at all. Not at all. Carlos Palomino was his favorite of mine. Salute. Got his autograph along with a few others of us airborne troopers. Salute to you, Alex. Thank you for your service. Airborne trooper. Hey, big time right there. Jumping out of planes and all of that stuff. You know, that's pretty crazy right there. Thinking of jumping out of a plane. I think about that. Man, I wouldn't want to do it. I don't think I could do it. I would have to be forced to do it from a military perspective. But, hey, that's tough right there. But, hey, probably a piece of cake for you there, Alex. Salute to you, Alex. Appreciate you, buddy. Airborne trooper in the house. Hey, those guys, big time. Big time. Dan says, yes, boss, American Mexican from Arizona. Yep. He was in the Navy. Okay, cool. Oh, yes, Palomino doesn't get enough mention. Without a doubt. I know about Palomino for sure. I need to know more about him, actually. I do need to know more about him. Beat everyone except Arguello beat them all, KO. Big time right there. He looks great for his age now. Hey, isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? See, we have some of these historic boxers who are still around. It'd be good to get them on and talk to them. Nothing better than connecting with history than some of the fighters from who've already retired, things of that nature, who will have a connection to some of the trainers and other fighters from the past that were older than them, etc., who they would have probably jailed with, connected with on their way up. So that is pretty interesting right there. We're going to see if we can make some stuff like that happen. It would be good. Salvador Sanchez, one of my favorites right there. Gone too soon. Another one of those youngsters who was just really coming into his own. And unfortunately, passed away before we got to see him reach his highest potential, because many great fights were to come for sure. Many great fights were to come, but he did a lot by the time that he actually died, which was, he was like 23 or 24, right? Somewhere in there. 23 maybe. The Bajas, isn't that irony? Arguello not being Mexican, but from Nicaragua. Yeah. Crazy. Alexis Arguello, the thin man with a big punch. Classic fighter right there. Hey, you can't judge a book by its cover in boxing. The skinny, thin guys can be some of the ones with the biggest punch right there. That's an example for sure. I know. Yeah. He was a mayor of Managua, Nicaragua. Oh yeah, he was mayor at the time of his passing. He was mayor. Pretty crazy. Hey, interesting stories right there. Interesting stories, much like that of one less Darcy, who we spoke on, but just another example of one of those young fighters who was able to rack up a number of victories prior to his death and was on a pretty high trajectory. One that, few can match. Just thinking about the age, you see more of it, of course, back in the day. Of course, boxing was that number one sport back then in terms of the number one option, where a lot of guys were seeking to go the route of what would provide the best or most financial gain, and it was boxing. So there's no question that that's a reason why you saw many of the top level fighters, or you see so many top level fighters from that period. Shout out to StreamYard. You see here on the hoodie. They don't sponsor this channel or anything, but just want to show them some love. I do have a StreamYard hoodie I won from being on the channel. So salute to you, without a doubt. Salute to you. I tell you who I do need a sponsorship from, Biota. Where you at, Biota? Look, I drank this while we were watching that video. Biota carrot juice. This is good stuff right here. Who would have thought carrot juice would be so on point? Biota, this is good stuff right there. If you're listening, which you're probably not, hit me up. But I'll get it in front of you in some capacity. Rodolfo Rivera Jr. says, "Oh wow, Alexis Arguello was the mayor of the capital." Yeah, pretty crazy, right? You guys ever heard of Eddie Gazzo? Eddie Gazzo doesn't ring a bell. Does not ring a bell right there, boys. But hey, you stay putting me on game. He was a world champion from Nicaragua at 154. Pretty awesome right there. See, folks, I told you, hey, you get just history in general on here. Can't exclude those that are a part of the commentary that provides comments, things of that nature, because there are a lot of hidden gems that are out there. And that's why I accept and welcome all to come chime in, show some love. Your opinions are valued, even if they differ. We can talk about it. Hey, let's talk about it. All right. That's good stuff right there, Bob. That is good stuff. He was murdered by that little POS Dan Ortega. Oh, no. Sombering stories on here, of course, this episode. Pretty sombering stuff for sure. Beagle says, AA was a gentleman boxer, but tough as nails in the rings. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, he was. Beagle say, hey, Beagle, hey, I know you're on game, Beagle. Yeah, that's good stuff right there. You are right. Tough as nails. Of course, we know the classic contest with Aaron Pryor. Woo, especially that first one. Man, Big time stuff right there. Big time stuff. Eddie Gazo, was he Argentine? Was he an Argentine fighter? 100% Beagle. See, hey, got to show you some love there. Beagle, good point. Tough as nails. Nicaragua. Woohoo! Yeah, late 70s, Gazo was a champion. I did have oh, you know what? I was gonna say I had a shot glass that a coworker brought me, but it wasn't Nicaragua. It was Ecuador, actually. Yeah, late 70s, Gazo was champion. Late 70s. Okay, that's pretty dope. I had to look into him for sure. You got to put me on game, boss. Put me on game. 3 successful defenses. Stop Koichi Wajima in the first. Okay, these are 2 guys I need to know about. Both of them. See, hey, some stuff is news to me. I remember him. Like Marvin Gaye says, what's going on? Gotcha. Dan Ortega was a little commie leader of Nicaragua. Oh, okay. Yeah. Not cool for sure. Not cool. Sandinista, says the boss. Alex says Agrello fell out with the Sandinistas. He initially had supported Ortega. Oh, okay. Interesting. Very much interesting. You know, I hadn't dove into the whole surroundings and proceedings and everything tied to his death and what transpired. Yeah, pretty interesting right there. Pretty interesting. Still as president. Yeah, I know from what I previously recollected, the scene was set, I guess, to a certain degree to make it look self-inflicted as far as what happened in terms of the death of Alexis Arguello. Unless I'm thinking wrong, that's what I recall. So, but you know, when you take into account the politics, especially in states, countries, etc., where they lean more on that communism side, that could certainly be the case. Or you can't put anything past anyone, I guess you can say. Daniel Ortega. So interesting stuff. Learning some stuff myself here. South and Central America was my world in 1980s. Good stuff there, Alex. Hey, appreciate you sharing. That's good to know. Still, the Contras were even worse. Agrello joined them for a while, but when he saw what they did, he left quickly. Oh, interesting. We get some history on Alexis Arguello. I'm sure that could be a show in and of itself right there. Interesting. They stole a lot of money and properties and Sandistas. Interesting. He only joined them because Ortega had confiscated his property. Yeah. It is called confiscated. So they confiscated his property. Yeah, that's crazy. Then Arguello went back to help his people. But later Alexis came back and was giving it all back. Arguello fought in battle and became a minister in Ortega's government, if I'm not mistaken. Interesting. Alexander, I did not know that. But yes, I heard a lot about the suicide rumor. Yeah, that's what I knew of right there as well, Beagle. So some of this is news to me as well. So interesting, very much interesting. Now I have been dove into it and kind of researched it on my own. So my view of it was only from a headline standpoint. And of course, you know, that doesn't tell the full story with a lot of things when you're only getting the headline view if you don't dive into the articles and etc. in general. So very interesting stuff right there. Very interesting stuff. Something worthy of talking about a bit more. I might have to look into it myself. It was mainly his son that was claiming it wasn't suicide. Interesting. You know, as a Catholic, suicide is the worst way to die for them. Worst way to die for them. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. But being tied to certain individuals or whatever always leaves the door open for potential foul play in other ways. Certainly, thinking about the politics of things, it certainly is interesting. Dan says they murdered him. Hey Dan, yeah, the door is certainly left open for potential things that might not have come to the light or may come to the light one day or may remain sealed. You never know. It is, Boz. That's a sin. I'm Catholic myself. So yes, indeed. There you go. Rodolfo knows what I'm talking about. Yep. My bad. I was distracted. What does Les Darcy have to do with the Titanic? Oh, Les Darcy doesn't have anything to do with the Titanic. Flack, actually, I was mentioning that a buddy of mine, Brian Duncan, who put me on game as far as Les Darcy, who I got introduced to Les Darcy through him, Brian Duncan. He wrote a book about these fighters that were on the Titanic. I was mentioning I'm going to try and get him on the show. I'm going to try to get Brian on the show so we can talk about that book. It's called The Ice Punch. And these were two fighters who actually were tied to the Titanic. I believe one of them was Welsh. They both might have been Welsh fighters, actually. I can't think of one of them. One of them is Dai Hawkins. I want to say his name, or Dow Hawkins. D-A is either D-A-L or D-A-I. And very interesting story. It's called The Ice Punch. So I'm going to try to get him on to talk about it because I did an article on it reviewing the book back when I had 86 Boxing, the website up, and I was writing articles and posting press releases, etc., which became a load in itself. So I stopped doing that. And that being said, when I took down the site, all the articles are gone, unfortunately. But that being said, it was certainly a worthy book, something that I think everyone should check out. It's not too deep. It's not too crazy, or one of those deep, long, drawn-out stories. Get straight to the point, really. And amazing book. And I appreciate Brian for going through the process of writing it. I remember he mentioned it, and then, hey, it was out for several months. I didn't hear from him as much. I would hear from him every now and then because he was focusing on the research and everything behind that book, and he made it happen. So I was super proud of it. Salute, Brian, and anyone out there who's going to do their thing, sharing the love. That's what I'm saying. This history is a thing that we spread amongst each other. So I'm learning so much stuff here today. Dan says, amazing he lasted as long as he did. Same goes for Orthodox Christians. Oh, yeah, you're right. Facts. Yep. Boz, yes, you got it. Considered a mortal sin. Certainly. The little Flack. So Flack in the building, back in the building. Rodolfo asked me this, so I asked. Flack. Yeah, it was about, it wasn't Les himself, but yeah, just kind of tied to the conversation. Grella, I think, is unquestionably the greatest fighter of the last 50 years. Oh yeah, he's certainly in that mix, without a doubt. Yeah, pay attention, Flack. What the heck is going on, man? You're gonna fail the test that comes afterwards. I swear on everything. I love. He asked me, even said he Googled it and nothing came up. Oh, Rodolfo. Hey, you didn't Google right, Rodolfo. You didn't ask the right question. My mom was Ukrainian Orthodox. My dad Presbyterian. Okay, awesome. Ice Punch. Look, I'm gonna show you this real quick. Since you failed, Rodolfo, let me show you all this real quick. I gotta show some love to my man Brian Duncan. Look at there, Ice Punch, August 2020. So he wrote it in 2020. Pretty dope. Look at there. It's a good price right there. Paperback, $3.98. If you don't have it, get it. We're gonna get them on 96 pages. Publication date August 9th, 2020. Look at that front. This is the cover right here. And it has a smooth little velvet type feel to it, if I'm not mistaken. I have it down there. I had to bring it up. I'm going to show it on my next thing. Got to show some love to my man Brian Duncan. You see how did two young boxers from the hardened backdrop of Rhondda Valley become forever fused in the world's most famous maritime tragedy? Pittsburgh, PA was the intended destination. We know Pittsburgh, the home of many, including Harry Grant. Just their liking. So Leslie Williams and David Dye Bowen. So I said Hawkins. Leslie Williams, Dye Bowen. Look at there. I'm dropping you some knowledge right there. Look at that great deal. It's on sale. Price was $19.56, but you can get it for less. So now would be a pretty solid time, I would suppose. But I have the book as well, even with a little signature from Brian. Hey, we can get him to get it to sign it as well. But I wanted to show some love right there. So it's there. It's there, Rodolfo. It's there, Rodolfo. Interesting, Alexander. Yes, indeed. I just wanted to take a minute to show y'all that the Ice Punch. Interesting, Rodolfo. Interesting flack. Okay, yeah, we got a lot of interesting things going on. Perfect. Toughest opposition. Three-way clash. It should have been four. That Panama Lewis prior. Also, Agrell was a great man. Yes, indeed. Indeed. Oh, Flack, you were lying. You were just playing fun and games there, Flack. You guys are funny. By the book, Flack, you failed the test. Okay, good stuff. Okay, good stuff. I'm right now. $3 is a steal. $3 is a steal. Salute to my man Brian Duckett. We got to talk about it. I got you, Rodolfo. If you need me to get it, I got you. But you got it. I know you're gonna be good for it, Rodolfo. Another lie right there. But yeah, appreciate it, folks, for sure. But yes, man, hey, I love it. I enjoy coming on, being able to talk about the history of it. This one, we're talking about the great Les Darcy. I showed the video as well. I don't know if you caught that flat, but you might have seen it in general. But Les Darcy, tough fighter, former Australian middleweight and Australian heavyweight champion. He fought for the Australian welterweight championship as well. Wins over the likes of Jimmy Clabby, George Chip, Eddie McGordy. I mean, the Bayonne Globetrotter, Jeff Smith. The list goes on. All by the age of 21. Of course, we know about his situation. We saw in the video he died in the United States, got an infection related to something, and I think it was a tooth thing or something of that nature is what it was. But that being said, we never got to see him fight in the United States. And look who just showed up. Barrow. Look at her. Look at you, Shaggy. Don't mess with her. Beware of dog, folks. Beware of dog. Beware of dog. Agrello loves Joe Louis. Patterns his style after him. Boom, KO. Hey, don't want to pattern after one of the greatest heavyweights in the history of the sport. The pure history. So the great Joe Louis, the Brown Bomber. Indeed he was, man. Indeed he was. Barrow, yes sir, Rodolfo. Look at her, she's in the mix right here. Look at this. She's like a teddy bear. But don't think that she won't get rough. My mom even says, hi, Barrow. Hey, Barrow, hey, she knows command. She will protect. Watch. Come here. So don't think that she won't protect. Okay, it's all good, girl. It's all good. So don't run up on me when Barrow's with me, or she's ready to go. I just wanted to show you that. She doesn't mess around. No, it's all good, girl. It's all good. Calm down. We don't have to lay hands on anybody right now. But yeah, good to go. Well, I appreciate everyone. Appreciate everyone dropping by this. We're talking about the great Les Darcy. Hey, my mom dropped back in the mix right there. See you, Barrow. Appreciate you still watching. Appreciate you still being in the mix. Everyone, of course. We'll have to do this again. This isn't the end. Today's Thursday, so tomorrow's Friday. So that means we can go on unlimited. Let's think about who would be a good person to talk about Friday. I try to focus on those who've done a video on. I have heard mention of wanting to do Barbados Joe Walcott. Pretty impressive career right there. I've been thinking about him. Of course, I've been thinking about a few others as well. Alexander says, Darcy no doubt had not even peaked. No telling how much greatness he could have obtained. Certainly. You would have to think that a contest between he and Harry Greb would have been filmed, because I think their paths would have ultimately collided. Harry Greb, Les Darcy. Just think about that. Excellent contest right there. Excellent contest. They were on a collision course, and it was going to happen, I feel, had it not been for the unfortunate circumstances. So we never got to see it, but they were on a collision course. So think about that, folks. But there's other Les Darcy stuff out there for sure. I was mentioning, and I don't have it on me I don't have the information right now. I'll drop it under the comments when I find it. But you may be able to find it there on YouTube and looking up Les Darcy. But there is a good documentary that dives into it, where I think it was shot actually in Maitland, Australia, where Darcy is from. So you have people from that area, region, they're speaking on Darcy, his story, as well as showing some sites maybe homes and etc. that I believe it's like homes and things of that nature, or maybe places where some fights went down, all of that stuff in this particular documentary. So it's certainly worthwhile. I'm going to drop it in the comments just for the sake of, I think it's a good one. I just know it's out there on YouTube. And yeah, I would share such, but it's a good one as well because it's about an hour. I want to say somewhere in that range. So you get even more detail, especially all the things leading into him going to the United States and what transpired there, and ultimately his demise there in the United States. So it's certainly worthwhile. So I'm going to put that in the comments without a doubt. But yeah, this is a guy with a ton of potential that went unreached. As Alexander was mentioning, Beagle says, "Dog, thanks all. Appreciate your time." Jersey Joe Walcott. No, Barbados Joe Walcott, Beagle, but Jersey Joe is certainly somewhat worthy of diving into. But Barbados Joe Walcott, where Jersey himself, Mr. Arnold Raymond Cream, got his namesake from the great Barbados Joe Walcott right there. Alexander says the Walker Grab fight was filmed but lost, probably to decomposition. Yeah, so unfortunate. That had to be pretty epic and exciting when given the offensive nature of both of those guys. Not even again, age 21. So great, huge, powerful man, just getting started, full of champion charisma. Without a doubt there, Dan, the great Les Darcy. I admit I lied to Flack about not paying attention just because he was blackmailing me right now. Rodolfo is a dead of Roy Jones Jr. Great fighter he was. Good stuff. A fan of Roy Jones Jr. Yet the great Superman himself, Roy Jones Jr., who just competed in a metaverse fight. It looked very interesting. It was, you'll just have to see it for yourself. I can't really explain it, but a metaverse fight for those that maybe have a headset, one of those Quest Logic headsets, or whatever it may be. So tragic. Salute to Les Darcy. His husband, tough life, always smiling like a puppy, without a doubt. Or random things to say, Flat, but okay. Good stuff. But yeah, hey, appreciate everyone without a doubt. But we're gonna be back in the mix tomorrow. We might have to do Barbados Joe. But I'm gonna think about it. Maybe we'll say Barbados Joe for another day. I'm gonna think about it. I'll let it be known, though. I will certainly let it be known. But as always, man, I appreciate every one of you being here, showing some love, partaking in the history. Hey, in the comments, we'll be active without a doubt. I'm going to drop that Darcy video in there. So I appreciate everyone, and certainly have a great night, and we'll be in